All right, welcome back to the Own Your Good podcast. This is Dave, and today I am so happy to be with Olivia Burgess. Is that Liv
Yeah,
for
people call me
friends?
Liv for friends. You can call me Liv.
Cool. So we were just talking a little bit about what we do to give value to people, what we do that helps us feel like we're making something positive happen. And for me, that's helping people solve problems with whether it's a podcast or whether it's an online business website or whatever. And I don't have a ton of experience with those things, but helping people solve those problems is the thing that gets me going, whether they're teenagers kind of lost, especially with this COVID thing going on, or whether it's just pursuing a business. And Liv, you've got a lot of the same type of energy and focus for people, but in a totally different realm. What is that realm?
So I am a certified health coach, and I actually it fell into my lap probably 3 years ago, and it wasn't something that I kind of quote unquote knew I wanted to do.
Sure.
But I guess everything, looking back on it, hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, I see now that all of the steps that I'd taken up until this point had kind of led me down this path. I wanted to, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
I wanted to be a nurse. I wanted to, all of these things were helping people.
Kind of stereotypical and maybe gender conformist, but not necessarily. Was that something that you had seen in your family, parents or aunts or uncles that were teachers or nurses or anything like that?
Not necessarily, but my mom did a lot of volunteer work and helping people. And so I did see that from her standpoint. But I guess as a little kid, I always played school.
Yeah.
With my Barbies, I always played school. Or
When
I
you're
played
little,
doctor
school
or
is
whatever.
fun.
Right. School is fun. My 4-year-old has her backpack next to the door. She's waiting,
Ready to
counting
go.
down the days. But yeah, I mean, as a kid, those are the games that I played. And if you watch your kids, what games do they play? And that's kind of what
Yeah.
they are naturally going to be drawn to. Well, that's kind of what I was naturally drawn to. And so that's what I went to school for. Nursing school's really hard.
Yeah.
Getting into nursing school's really hard. So I ended up graduating with my associates in science and moved to Colorado. I was a medical assistant for a lot of years, and then kind of just to pay bills, moved into credit card processing realm. But in that area, I worked in kind of a sales position, which I don't see myself really as a salesperson necessarily. But what I loved about it is more of like being an advocate for people.
Yeah, sales is difficult.
Yeah.
If you're there and you don't know exactly the product or you don't buy the product yourself, it's difficult to say, hey, you should buy this, whatever, this couch, this drum kit, whatever, because I don't know anything about it. I don't play. I don't know how it works.
Right.
But you found a way to help people through sales.
Right. So like, for instance, with credit card processing, right? I mean, I felt like I was kind of at that point a step above like a used car salesman. No offense, used car salespeople. But what I'd found, the way that I kind of adjusted the way I did things was I was helping these businesses find the most effective way to process credit cards, which was something they had to do
Yeah.
at the most, the best rate they could do it.
Cost benefit, all that stuff.
The best
Yeah.
cost benefit and the best way that they could, the most time effective and all of that stuff for them to make their business better,
Yeah.
to help them earn more money, to whatever. And so that made me feel more like an advocate, not so much as a salesy person.
Yeah.
And in any position that I held after that, that's kind of the approach I took, was teaching.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what went back to what I wanted
Did you ever
to do
start
anyway.
dreaming about processing credit cards and solving people's problems that way?
Nope.
Because
Nope,
working in the
I didn't.
restaurant business, I would have dreams about the printer, just nonstop tickets coming. Friday night never ends. So that's good that you never had those terror or maybe positive dreams about helping people.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had dreams about helping people, but it was never in a salesy way. I guess I do remember though, when I was as a medical assistant, what I didn't love about it. I loved helping people. I loved taking care of people, but I remember days that were slow and I would be sitting there in the nurse's station knowing I was going to get sent home early and get half a paycheck that day.
Yeah.
And I would be in the back of my head hoping somebody would get sick so that I would not have
Or
to
some
go
terrible
home.
accident.
And I'm like, I hate that my life depends on people getting sick and getting hurt.
I had never thought about that, because in the restaurant industry, that if it's slow, people get, people come eat, or I have to go home.
Right.
And that's not a life or death situation. But then if you're totally dependent on customers, and your customers are sick or dying,
Right.
that's awful.
Right. And so, I mean, at that point, I knew I wanted to do something that was more on the preventative side and not so much on the reactive side.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that looked like.
Yeah.
And it was something I just threw to the back of my mind because I was like, I don't know what that means.
Whatever that is, yeah.
So that's what I mean when I say this kind of fell into my lap. And I had quit my job after my second baby was born.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to stay home, and it was going to be dreamy, and I was going to bake cookies and play with the kids, and it was going to be fabulous. And that is not what staying at home looks like.
That is not what kids are about. Mm-mm. No.
Nope, it sure doesn't. So after my second one, I hadn't lost the weight like I wanted to. So I knew what to do because I had the background in
studying,
medicine.
yeah.
And so I was, I lost like 20 pounds in 5 months, and it was great. And then my girlfriend started wanting me to help them. And so I made a little Facebook page, and I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do.
And that's kind of epic, because if you've ever tried to lose weight, unless you're really, really strict about what you're eating and how physical you are, that's difficult.
Well, and throw in the extra thing of I've got polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Okay.
So for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a metabolic disorder where I don't process insulin very well.
Okay.
And so it throws my hormones off. And when I went off my medication the first time without paying attention to it, I gained 30 pounds in 3 months.
Wow.
So it makes it really hard to lose weight.
Yeah.
It makes it really hard to have kids. It's just a mess. And women who battle with it, it never goes away. Mm-hmm. You can handle it like diabetes kind of.
Yeah.
And it actually is related to diabetes, but it's not something you can ever cure. And women that deal with it, it is awful. And it's hard. And a lot of women just throw their hands up and they're like, fine,
this is what
this
it is.
Too much.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm just going to be overweight. I'm just never going to have kids. I'm just never going to be what I thought I was going to be, whatever it is.
And there are a lot of situations like that in a lot of different ways for both genders, right? Or everybody has the potential to be dealing with something that makes what would seem like normal life even that much more difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, I knew how to feed myself, lost the weight. My girlfriend started asking me what I was doing. A lot of these girlfriends also had PCOS. And it's just funny how you kind of attract people that are in your same boat, right?
Yeah.
And so I tried to coach them, but it was hard because I didn't have the tools really to help them the way I wanted to.
You knew yourself, but you didn't necessarily know all of the ins and outs of their lives.
Right.
What they needed personally.
Right. And so I would say stuff like, okay, this is what you're going to do. You're going to meal prep 6 meals a day. You're going to do this. And, if you want an M&M, just have one.
Yeah.
And then put the whole bag down. But I took that for granted. Like, I could do that.
Yeah.
But not everybody can.
No, that is definitely.
And I'm like, but why do you have to eat it all? But that was me being naive and not knowing that I needed some better tools to help people.
Other people's mental or whatever previous learned experiences or learned habits.
Right. And I've learned more in the last 3 years, not just physically, but I've grown so much as a coach and as a person just because of learning people. Yeah. I think I was coming from just naturally kind of a selfish standpoint. Mm-hmm. I think where, I don't deal well with people who are like whiny or complaining very often.
Just before bedtime is when I crack. Yes.
And so if people tell me, oh, I can't do that, I'm like, oh my, buck up. Like, that's just my mentality, Mm-hmm. And what I learned is that some people really truly think they can't do it. Yeah. And 90% of getting healthy and staying healthy is mental. Yeah. And when I was telling people, well, why can't you just have one M&M? Yeah. I didn't realize it wasn't just a weakness thing and you're giving into like, because you're just being a baby. Yeah. But it was like a legit
self-worth,
mess up in your brain that we needed to work on.
Yeah, something that I'm not good enough, or this is the best way for me to deal with this situation, or who knows what.
Yeah. And so anyway, the program that I coach now is, one of my friends brought it to me and said, hey, this is very similar to what you're doing, but it's got all the tools already there. And it's already done for you. And I researched the crap out of it. I wanted to make sure that it was not going to be some, magic pill or magic shake or magic something, and they were going to lose 30 pounds and then gain it all back like that.
Yeah. Or with some of the pills, potential heart issues or whatever.
Right. And when I was seeing the results that people were getting with this program, I immediately thought fen-phen. Like, back in the 90s, I was like, oh no.
They're spending thousands of dollars and they're going to die.
Exactly. And so that's why I was researching it. I'm like, there's no way I'm getting my girlfriends on a bazillion milligrams of caffeine so that they lose weight fast. Like, that's just crazy. And so what I found was that this was a perfectly dialed in program put together by doctors and nutritionists. And I wasn't a doctor or nutritionist. So it was, the way that it was put together was just genius. And what I loved most about it is there's an education portion to it. And so not only did I get to help people, but now I also got to be a teacher. And so it married all of these things together that I loved. Not to mention I was a stay-at-home mom, and so I needed some grown-ups to talk to sometimes. But anyway, that's when I started coaching 3 years ago. We've helped a little over 500 people in that time. And so, and including my husband you just met, and he is down 102 pounds. So he's like a new man. When we got married, he told me, he's like, I'm going to die when I'm 64, just FYI.
Oh, gee.
I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I'll just make sure you have good life insurance.
There's an expiration date on this thing.
I'm like, as long as I know, we're fine. But he got on program. He watched me get healthy and help other people for a year. And finally, when he went hunting and he went hiking 15 miles, he came home and said, I thought I was going to die. And he really thought he was going to die on that mountain. And said, okay, help me coach. And so I coached him, and he's a new human.
So it took him a year to watch it happen. And I think that's kind of typical of most guys. What do you think is the issue there? What do you think?
He's a stubborn boy.
That's just boys in general.
He's a husband that was like, oh, my crazy wife's doing something crazy. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And he literally, I mean, he would be hungry, and I'd say, honey, I've got stuff for you. And he'd go, no, that's your weird stuff. I'm going to go make myself a bowl of ice cream.
Weird black magic stuff.
Yeah, that's your weird thing. But, after watching me for a year, and he was eating the dinners I was making. He was eating healthy for one meal a day. But once we got him on program, he kind of did his own thing and ate healthy for, I don't know, like 5 months or so. And he lost probably 30 pounds or so, 30, 40 pounds. But then he got on program and lost 102 in 5.5 months. So it's a lot more efficient. You can do it on your own. Sure. But a lot of people, get burnout trying to meal prep 6 meals a day. Or eat, just trying to figure out how to eat healthy. But they also get burnout because they want to be losing faster. And if you go a week, this is just something I've learned, without losing a pound, it plays a mental game on you.
You feel like nothing's working.
Right. So then they quit.
So with the clients that you've helped, how many would you say percentage-wise are male to female?
I think the nature of the beast is, and just with me, I would say it's probably 75% female.
Okay.
Just because what I've noticed is women are a lot quicker to be like, okay,
the unfortunate status of our culture.
A 4. Guys are just like, whatever. Like, it makes me look tougher.
They make 2XL shirts. I should be, whatever.
Like, I don't want to lose my muscles. I'm like, those aren't muscles, sweetie.
So that's the society we live in, the stigma of women need to fit into a specific thing. What is that like, trying to help people realize that their worth or their value or who they are does not depend on what they look like?
That's huge in my business, because there's a lot of people who will maybe take me for body shaming. I post success stories on my social media, and I've never had somebody say anything, but I've known other people who have had people say stuff to them, and say, "Hey, you're body shaming because you're showing this woman who is a beautiful, size 14, and she has to lose all this weight to get to a 2."
Right.
And that, I think, it depends on what eyes you're looking through.
Sure. Because
I don't care what size you are.
Foundationally, it's your physical and mental well-being.
Right. Like, I have good friends that are either on program or not on program or don't even know what program is. Like, I'm not going to go seek somebody out and be like, "Hey, you look like you could drop 30 pounds. Like, that's not my business.
Yeah.
And it's not that I think one body type is better than another by any means. What I think is better is getting rid of some visceral fat that's over your organs and suffocating your heart.
Right.
Like, what I would rather see, like, my husband was probably 300 pounds when I met him. Mm-hmm. He started program at 330, and I liked him like that.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want him to lose weight. Yeah. I didn't care whether he lost weight or not.
Yeah.
And but his knees were creaking. Mm-hmm. His ankles were creaking. He was tired all the time. There was a lot of stuff that he couldn't do that he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Do I like the way that his attitude is now? Sure.
Right. When you feel better, you act differently.
Yeah. Do I like that he doesn't snore anymore so I can sleep? Sure. Although I thought he was dead for like the first week after he stopped snoring, and
snoring.
I was like, but yeah, I mean, body image is a huge deal. And I think a lot of people get hung up on, well, I'm big and beautiful and that's how I like it. Yeah. Well, great.
Yeah.
That's how I want you to stay then.
Yeah.
But are you tired?
Right.
Are you getting close to having diabetes?
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Right.
For you. You know what I mean?
So most of the reason why people do what they do is because they want to change. Mm-hmm. The pain of existing as they currently are is worse than the work or the pain that it will take to fix it.
Yeah.
What is that? Like you just said, you wouldn't ever go to anybody that you know and say, "Hey,
no.
Slap me first before I tell you what I really think." No.
How rude.
How frequently do you come across people that are ready to go?
Well, I mean, honestly, people that reach out, I don't seek people out.
Yeah.
I put what I like to think of as little beacons out into the universe with
that
things that
people.
I post.
Yeah.
And if people see it and it strikes a chord and they reach out to me, great. And that's what I want them to do.
So is that how you get your clients, your potential people you work with?
Yeah. So people that come to me and ask for my help are coming to me. I don't go and say,
that's the way sales should be.
You ready to go?
That's what makes sales fun.
Yeah. No, that's not fun. That's stressful.
You don't want to have to go out and try and convince somebody of something.
Yeah.
Them coming ready to buy is what you want.
Right. Well, and I think I naturally get excited about things, and I naturally you can't see me. We're on a podcast. I keep doing air quotes. Can you guys tell that I'm doing air quotes?
We'll take a picture for the show notes.
Take an air quote picture. So anyway, I think I naturally, quote unquote, sell stuff.
Yeah.
And my first handful of clients, I was like, this is the greatest thing on the planet. And it is.
Right.
I think it
is.
You
lived it. Yeah.
And so they got on program and I literally had to sell them every day. I'm like, this is freaking exhausting.
Which is what a coach does.
Right. But if it's not their idea, if they come to me and we go through, I do a health assessment with all my clients. If we go through a health assessment and they're like, I'm like a 5 or a 6, I'm like, good. You come talk to me when you're like a 9 or a 10.
Yeah.
Because if you're a 5 or a 6, I'm not going to talk you into this every day.
Right. I can't hold your hand.
Right.
You're an adult.
You're a grown up. And this program is so dang easy that if you can't manage mentally, I can't talk you into it every day. But so I would say, to answer your question, I would say probably 80% of the people who I talk to are ready to go.
Yeah.
Because they're reaching out to me.
Right. And so we're in Utah, and do you work mostly with people in Utah?
Nope.
Because the internet is something that helps us reach anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Where are your clients from? Or maybe some stories of people where you're like, I didn't know that I had a friend there.
Let's talk about that. I have clients from California to New York, Florida, all over. I mean, I have them all over the country. I actually have a client that I just talked to last week. She just got on program. She's in Guam.
Wow.
There's a 16-hour time difference there. So
yeah, so if it's 8 o'clock here, think.
I'm like, so how's tomorrow? It's a good day? Okay, good. But yeah, so everywhere. And she's on the Air Force base, or not the Air Force base, sorry, Naval base.
Yeah.
In Guam. Air Force and Navy, don't get mad. I just had a moment of like, oh my gosh. But we went to school together.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how it organically, and that's the other thing I love about it, is that it kind of organically grows. It's not something that I get to just be me.
Yeah.
And
people see it
the way I live and live my health out.
Yeah.
And people see it and go, I want that too.
Yeah.
I say, okay, I will teach you.
So is that the farthest away
Guam.
is Guam?
Mm-hmm.
Have you worked with anybody else overseas?
We just opened our business up to Hong Kong and Singapore last year.
I guess it depends on
but I
what
don't
is available.
have any contacts in Hong Kong and Singapore.
Yeah.
So if anybody knows anybody there, let me know.
You were telling me a story about someone that called you or messaged you and you didn't know who they were, but it was a referral from a referral kind of a situation.
Oh,
tell that story, because that was sort of a
So that lady was one of my first clients.
Okay.
And so at this point, I had been like, okay, this is gonna be a fun little hobby thing while I'm the stay-at-home mom, baking cookies, doing all the fun things, and I'm gonna do this little side gig, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna be a hobby. It'll be great. Well, this lady called me out of the blue, and she was calling from a hairdresser's parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
She had left her doctor's appointment. The doctor basically had a tough love conversation with her and said, if you don't lose weight, you're going to have a heart attack and die.
Wow.
And it was one of those moments where I think doctors, and I've seen it so many times when I was in the medical profession, that doctors have to have this conversation because they've already told you nicely.
Right.
Like
here
10
are the
times.
things that you should be doing.
Right. And then you come in and your blood work is such that they're like, gonna die.
Yeah.
Do something.
Yeah.
And so she, like you do when you get bad news, you go to your hairdresser and get your hair cut. So she went and got her hair done.
Make a change immediately.
Yeah. Cut off all your hair. So she went to the hairdresser and was talking to her hairdresser about it. Well, her hairdresser was a client of mine that I'd never met. They're in Minnesota. And I was actually referred to this hairdresser by a friend of mine that I knew.
Okay.
So a hairdresser says, you really ought to call my health coach. She can help you. Gave her my number. She goes out to the parking lot and calls me immediately. We did a health assessment. She gets on plan. And a few months in, she's down 40 pounds.
Yeah.
By the time her journey was over, and it's not over. She's always contending for her health.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think a lot of people, we can talk about.
It's a lifelong thing, but.
Right. So 7 to 8 months in, she's down, 60, 70 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Her cardiologist is taking her off her blood pressure medications.
Wow.
Her doctors are like doing backflips because she's completely changed the trajectory of her life and her health. And now she's posting pictures, running around with her grandkids, and her life is altered now. Yeah. And I'm sitting back looking at this, like I think a lot of people do when they're in a position like this, or, and I think that people who do like not public speaking, but what am I thinking of? Motivational speaking. It's kind of bigger than you are. Yeah. And so after you do a speech, you come off the stage and you're like, whoa, I can't believe all those people are listening to me. So it was that kind of experience where I saw her posting all this stuff and she's thanking me. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. I coached you.
I showed you how to do it.
I showed you how to do it and I taught you, but I guess that's what I did. Yeah. And after kind of thinking about it, I thought, okay, this is the real deal. Yeah. Like, this is what I want to do with my life.
To be the catalyst of that kind of change in somebody's life is a big deal.
Right. Like, this isn't a hobby anymore. Yeah. This is what I want to do with my life, is be that advocate for people and teach them how to get healthy.
Yeah.
Not just because they want to fit into a size 4, but because they want to be around for their kids and their grandkids, and they want to be the fun mom that gets to go down the water slide with them.
Yeah.
Or they want to be the fun dad that's going to take them hiking up a mountain and go fishing and be able to just be like, yeah, let's go run around the block.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was not that mom.
So let's just pause for a second, because I think when anybody finds success in something, there is a sense of ego, pride. I did this.
Right.
And I don't think that's what you're saying. I think
Oh, yeah, no.
that you're recognizing that by being sort of a stepping stone, maybe, to information and to support, you're helping somebody make that change for themselves.
Right.
From now on, she's basically capable of doing this herself.
Yeah.
And possibly being that kind of energy for somebody else.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what's great about this is you teach people how to do it. So basically it's kind of, and you're a teacher, you know,
Yeah.
you basically show them how to do it, do it with them, watch them do it.
Yeah.
So that's the same methodology
Yeah.
and I also business coach. So I health coach, which turned into people losing weight, feeling great about themselves. And then they go, well, I want to help my friends.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'll show you how to do that too.
Yeah.
And so I show people how to do it. I do it with them, right alongside them, like shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
I have a girl who just started not too long ago, and she is doing our teen program. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to start too. So I started day 1 with her, and I'm going shoulder to shoulder with her because she's younger. I felt like she needed that kind of support.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother ballgame, teenagers.
Yeah. They haven't had the life experience of successes and fails.
Right.
They don't know the length of the duration of the plan, whatever that is.
Well, and with teenagers, especially girls and guys too, probably, there's so much hormonal stuff going on. It's so much judgment going on and so much stress going on that you have to really be careful with what you say and what you do, because it's so formative that, and in this realm, it's so easy. I mean, I was there. I've dealt with eating disorder stuff, and it's so easy to fall back into that stuff or to say the wrong thing and get them there. And that's the other thing that kind of leads me, I don't know, leads me down this other path. Good. But I think that everybody kind of goes through stuff so that you can use it as a teaching tool later.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people go through hard times or go through struggles in life, and they're like, ugh, this is, my life is so hard, and this is just how life is going to be. And they get
feeling
really,
like it's unique to them by
gloom,
themselves, and it's not.
Yeah. They get really gloom and doom and sad.
Yeah.
But if you think about it as, I'm going through this, I had an eating disorder as a teenager.
Yeah.
I went through a lot of depression, anxiety, and a lot of yucky stuff in my life.
Yeah.
And I could just get down on that stuff. But I use it as, I'm going to meet somebody in my journey that's going to need to, I am going to have gone through that and have that experience so that I can help them.
Right.
And be their guidebook.
And that's authentic. You can't make that stuff up.
Right.
People know when you're serious and you say, I have experienced X, whatever that is. Could be dealing with somebody with depression, anxiety, suicidal tendencies, eating disorders, anything. They're going to look at you and just sort of shrug you off and say, yeah, right.
Yeah.
But they can tell the gravity of what you're saying to them.
Right.
So that's kind of amazing. I mean, we're taking it another step up. It's not just about physical health. It's a mental health situation.
So much.
That if you don't experience it, you can't empathize with them. You can't provide them with the support and understanding. And I think oftentimes it's just listening to figure out, or for them to figure out that they're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something too that we teach in the business coaching aspect of it is listen to hear, don't listen to respond.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people listen, and that's something I have to work on. I think I personally think that people in general are selfish by nature.
Oh yeah.
And so they're listening to wait till you stop talking so they can tell you what's in their brain. And I'm guilty of that all the time.
Yep.
All the time.
Yep.
And so I have to consciously make an effort to be like, okay, listen to what they're saying and then respond to what they just said.
And sometimes the response is just, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know. Like, you don't have to respond with anything, just validating it verbally. Yeah.
And as a coach, that's your job.
Yeah.
Is to, when somebody's struggling and you get on a phone call with them and they tell you their struggles, you really need to hear what they're saying, because they're not going to say it outright like,
right, whatever the actual cause of the problem is.
I'm stressed out, so I'm eating cookies. They'll say, oh, I don't know, I'm just having cookies because I needed some me time, or I'm just having a pizza because I just needed some me time. Well, why do you need some me time?
Yeah.
Because life is in a spiral right now, and your kids are yelling and screaming, and your husband's working out of town, or whatever.
Right. Instead of providing a solution instantly, it's listening for what the actual
just
problem is.
throw the cookies in the garbage.
Yeah.
Well, no. The problem is, where's your trigger? Like, let's find the trigger and then fix that.
Yeah. And I found that as one half of a relationship. Sometimes it really is just, I need to hear that you're here with me, not what the solution is. Because I'm a problem solver. You got a problem? Let's fix it.
Yeah. I think men are by nature. My husband does that too. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to tell you something. Just listen.
Yeah.
Don't fix it, okay?
But that's good. That's a good preface to zip it. Just listen.
I don't want you to fix it. I just want a hug.
But in a coaching scenario, that could be different. And that's where you really have to listen to what is the problem? What is the root cause?
Yeah.
Wow. You didn't see yourself doing this back when you were a kid, nurse, teacher, but in a way, that's what you are doing now. It's almost like you got there in a roundabout sort of kind of way. And looking back, hindsight being 2020, I think everybody could say that, right? If you've really followed what you want to do, if the thing that you love is what you're always thinking about and sharing with other people, it will happen. It develops. No matter what path you're on, no matter what jobs you've had, no matter who you've worked with, where you've lived.
Yeah.
If you're truly chasing that feeling of, I've got to do this because this is who I am, you look back and you see that all happen. So you've been in this role for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And probably with where it's at, you're good there. Is that all there is? Have you peaked?
No. 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 So, the great thing about this industry is that, or I guess not this industry, because there's a whole bunch of things.
It kind of is an
industry,
industry, and we're not talking about any particular group or company or organization or whatever, because
and
everyone has a different path and success in all sorts of different plans. Right.
And I think your ceiling or your peak, or what you're capable of is dependent on you as a person. I don't think, when you're working for a corporation, say, sure, there's a ceiling. You can only get promoted so high.
At my school district, I am either a teacher or an administrator.
Right.
And there's a definite line between those two.
Right. And you can only, once you're an administrator, okay? Say you're the principal.
Yeah.
Have you peaked? Well, yeah. Where else are you going to go?
In that school, yeah.
You don't get to be the boss of the principal.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. And so that's the great thing about, one, owning your own business. But in this company, there's not a ceiling.
Yeah.
There are like top dogs, quote unquote, that I would say they haven't peaked.
They're the organizational
but
leaders.
They're the leaders.
Yeah.
Sure. And I firmly believe that people are capable of what they tell themselves they're capable of. And I think that we've let other people define our worth and tell us how much we're worth. And so I have a lot of coaches that I coach, that I business coach, that, they'll make $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
And they're like, yes, I'm there. I'm like, but why?
So there's no cap saying you can only work with X number of people
No. And I think people cap themselves out. They say, okay, I'm making $30,000 a year.
And I get to go home and watch Netflix.
Now everything's wonderful. And I'm like, yeah, but what if you could make 60? What if you could make 100? And money's maybe not their driver.
Sure.
But time freedom might be, And so if you were making 100,000 a year
Yeah.
and I could show you how to do it and you could free up a whole bunch of time, would you want to do that?
Do you think that applies to every industry? I mean, there are definitely times and places where you're in a specific organization or group where there are only X number of managers, or there's one CEO, or you know what I'm saying?
I think
In some organizations, it feels like there is a cap. There has to be a cap.
yeah.
But
I think it is when you're working for the man. I think when I think when you are working for someone else, there's a cap.
okay,
And when I was in, like, say, credit card processing,
yeah,
sure, I could work myself up to president of the company if I wanted to.
sure,
But then what?
yeah,
Was I going to go anywhere? No. Could I go buy another credit card processing company and be the president of two? Sure.
yeah,
But then I would own my own business, wouldn't I? Like, then I would be
Yeah.
a business owner. I wouldn't be an employee. So I think if you're an employee of someone else, yeah, there's a cap.
and you've sort of bought into that automatically anyway. You've bought into this idea that I want to be a teacher. So as a teacher, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going to get paid for. I know I only have to work from this month to this month.
But I think some people want that, though.
That's true.
When my husband decided he was going to do he said, I want to run my own business. I don't want to work for somebody else. I want to make my own hours. I want to do my own thing. In my head, I'd always worked for somebody else. And in my head, I was thinking bookkeeping, taxes, paperwork.
Sure.
Like,
All the things
he
you have to
wants
do.
to work his own business, but I'm going to be the secretary and I don't want to do that. And that's what happened. But I never wanted to own my own business.
Yeah.
The great thing about this company is that there's no overhead, and they basically send you a 1099. You send it to your accountant. Like, there's no paperwork,
Yeah.
there's no overhead, there's no invoicing,
Yeah.
none of that. And so that makes it super easy for me. But even with my husband's business, I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
We pay an accountant. People get scared of stuff like, well, but what about benefits?
Yeah.
How I'm not going to have insurance. Well, yeah, you are. You can go get
Yeah.
independent insurance, and a lot of times it's cheaper than what your company offers as a group plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of benefits to owning your own business, and there's probably a lot of downfalls too. But there's a lot of people that just want to go 9 to 5, come home, turn it off.
Yeah.
When you own your own business, you don't turn it off.
You're constantly thinking about it.
But a lot of times when you own your own business, it's your passion,
Yeah.
and you don't want to stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think about the difference between owning your own business in the thing that you absolutely love, and you get to wake up every morning and say, this is what I get to do today. I think about the time that I was in the restaurant industry and I was the boss and I never went on vacation. My boss was terrible. I guess it depends on the business, right?
right.
It depends on what it is that you're providing to people. And if it is a physical product, then you're going to have that punch clock system.
Right.
But if you are providing value to people and you can diversify how that happens, whether it's on the internet, on the phone, in person, across the country, anything, that could happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you do that in food. I'm sure there's a way, but
trucks.
I've given that up.
You can drive your restaurant everywhere.
Yeah. So you have found success in that balance of time and income. And I think that's what a lot of people, especially earlier in your career experience, in your early mid-20s, you're thinking, I thought, to be successful, I have to have some almost permanent career. And you're giving up time for that.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of people, as they graduate into the second half of adulthood, we start to realize it's not really just money, it's money and time and family and everything.
Yeah.
So this passion of yours, helping people with their health and their mental well-being, you can manage all of those things without punching a clock.
Yeah. And the great part about it is that we can do it from anywhere. So my husband is actually thinking about coaching with me.
Yeah.
Because he does a lot of, with his business, he does voice and data cabling. And so where he's his own boss, he still has a boss.
Yeah.
You know, he still has corporate accounts that are booking him for business.
Yeah.
And so I have to check with him. Hey, do you have work this week or whatever? If we're both coaches, we can coach anywhere we want to.
Yeah.
And we got a camper at the beginning of the year, which was so awesome.
Yeah.
Now hindsight with all the hindsight is 2020 with all the craziness going on this year. But as long as we have internet, we can coach.
Yeah.
And we've had talks about in the last, couple weeks, like what if we did kind of a homeschool situation or like a distance learning situation for our kids.
Yeah.
And we were both coaching. We could
be anywhere.
Go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like we went to Belize on our honeymoon, and one of the guys in Belize told us, if you make, what did they say, $30,000 a year US, you could have a mansion here.
Wow.
And there's like a really nice part of town.
Okay, let's go.
Right. They took us to like this really nice part of town where people who can work from anywhere, a lot of Americans
are working from anywhere,
move to Belize to the top of a hill and are, making 30, 40,000 a year, and they're living like kings. And I told my husband, let's move to Belize.
That's awesome.
I know, right? So, I mean, if we're both in the coaching industry, he and I are working together.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can do more together as a couple, but we can also, get out there and live and run the kids around and whatever. But what you're trading, and that's something I'm running into, what you're trading for that is, that old fashioned, like going to school and prom and football games and, having your homestead, your house that you come home to every day, and the kids are going to come home to when they're grown, and like all these ideals that you kind of grew up with. And I'm so that way, and he's not. He's like, let's just travel and run around. Yeah. And so I have a hard time breaking with that tradition and being like,
it is difficult.
So
I just as a side thought, oftentimes we think of success or helping people as being an individual thing. Do you think there is a bigger market there if you were to co-teach, co-team, co-coach? I was trying to think of the phrase there.
Co-coach, my husband and I co-coaching?
So if you're working one-on-one with people, but then could there be a market for couples where they're like, this has to work with us together?
Oh, yeah.
And
I coach couples either together or separate. I do health assessments, typically separate.
Yeah.
Some couples will say, no, let's just do it together. You can ask him a question and then me a question. Those couples all coach together because they clearly are very
together.
They want to do it
But
together.
some people are very individual. My wife does not have a sweet tooth, so that wouldn't work for us.
Right. Yeah. And there are some couples that, like my husband and I, are very competitive.
Yeah.
And just, it's a friendly competition.
Yeah.
But we just don't talk about what we weigh because there's going to be a battle.
Yeah.
But I will coach them different. I'll call the husband, I'll call the wife.
Yeah.
And it will be two completely different situations.
Yeah.
But co-coaching with Gene would be, the benefits of that is our personalities are very different.
Yeah.
He's going to have some strengths where I lack, and there's going to be some clients that need him.
Right.
And I probably have clients that need him.
Right.
Like my coaches, they are a husband and wife team. They coach together, and they have very different personalities. She is very type A, like,
this is how
get
it is.
Done,
get it done.
Stop whining. Let's do this, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
He is very much a hug. Like, he's just a hug. Like, loving and warm, and he's gonna make you feel like you've been heard and loved and taken care of, right? She will too, but she's more of a driver.
Depending on the severity of the situation. And I think that's why mom-dad teams are so great.
Yeah.
Because one is the nurturer and one is the, come on.
Yeah.
That didn't hurt. Stand up.
Same situation. And so, and I think probably my business wouldn't be 75% female if we had, because guys don't really want to call a girl and be like, hey, so
can you help me with this?
I want to whine to you about a donut. Is that okay? Like that, you know what I mean? Like they're not as likely to call and talk to me.
Yeah.
But Gene, a guy's going to see him and be like, dude, you lost 102 pounds in 5.5 months.
Yeah.
What'd you do? Teach me your ways.
Do you think that's breaking down? Do you think guys are starting to be able to express themselves or ask for things more.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's cultural.
Oh, yeah.
Out west, you guys are, these Western boys are very like,
where's my revolver?
Yeah.
I got to go hunt something.
It's so funny because Gene's from the East Coast. He's from Pennsylvania. And when I met him, I'm like, oh boy, like, you're very tender. And I was a little concerned about his tenderness, but he's not really tender. He's he's tough.
It's all for show.
Yeah. But the East Coast guys are a little softer. Like they will actually have a conversation with you and talk to you about stuff that is like, and show their emotions a little bit more. Where Western guys are like, nah,
we're good.
Just rub some dirt on it.
Yeah,
we're good.
Let's go get a drink.
Yeah. And so it's a little harder with the guys out here because they don't want to talk to a girl. Yeah. They don't want to, they don't want to admit that I can help them do something that they maybe couldn't have done on their own.
Yeah.
Because they're tough. And they can do all the things on their own. And so I think having Gene co-coach with me would help a ton with that because they're more likely to talk to a guy and be like, oh yeah, this guy's awesome and he helped me.
Yeah.
Not that it's a sexist thing, but it's just guys.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a societal cultural thing. Mm-hmm. So you've made a lot of progress in realizing and investigating what you've wanted to do for pretty much your whole life. You've kind of been living that. I want to help. This is kind of who I am and what I want to do. Yeah,
and well, I will tell you that up until 3 years ago, I was kind of a lost puppy. Like, I didn't know.
You had an idea what you want to do, but you couldn't get there. You didn't know what it was.
Well, I think, and I think a lot of people can relate to this. Think about when you were a kid. Mm-hmm. What did you love to do? When you were a kid and you were starry-eyed and you wanted to be an astronaut or you wanted to be a whatever.
Yeah.
And then life happens and you get hardened. And then you get married and you get hardened. No, just kidding. You get hardened because you're married.
You realize what
sad.
Bills are, what life is.
And bills and just kids and life and craziness.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm just going to go to my 9 to 5 and pay my bills. And I can't even wrap my mind around all the stuff that's going on. But when you find, like, the way it worked with me is this, like I said, landed in my lap and ignited my passion. And I remembered that little girl.
Yeah.
I remembered what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And what my passions were. And then I kind of came into myself again. And I remember I lived in Colorado and it was a lot more lax back there.
Yeah.
A little more relaxed. People are a little more accepting, I think, in the area we were in.
Yeah.
And that's where we met, my husband and I. Mm-hmm. And when we moved to Utah, I instantly fell back into there's this like perfection stigma here. And I wouldn't leave the house without makeup on. And I was high strung and I was stressed out and I was, trying to keep up with the Joneses and how does my yard look and how do my kids look and how does everything else look? And he said to me, he's like, you're not that girl that I married in Colorado. And once I started coaching it wasn't necessarily the coaching thing, but just reigniting my passion and remembering who I was outside of trying to be perfect all the time. And once that started happening, he said to me, he's like, that's who I married. There she is.
The authentic you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that gets buried because we're so worried about paying bills and being who everybody else wants us to be. And we care so much. I still care so much. Part of what I do is I go live on Facebook because a lot of my clients are all over the place and they don't know me.
Yeah.
But if they can see my face and see me talking and see my personality, then there's a connection there.
Yeah.
They can look me in the eyes, even though it's over a video.
Right.
There's a connection there. But going live on Facebook for whatever reason makes me want to die.
It's scary.
It's so scary.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why.
You don't want to rewatch it. Did I say everything okay?
Yeah. You're like, I look like an idiot. But I mean, I don't know if you remember recording yourself back in the 90s when we had tape recorders.
Awful.
And then you listen to your voice. You're like, is that what I sound like? Oh my gosh. That's kind of what it's like.
Yeah.
And you nitpick all the little imperfections, but the imperfections are what connects people to you.
Yeah.
And you were talking a little earlier, not on here, but off mic about imperfections in podcasts and how you're worried about them being perfect and maybe the imperfections lead to the next one. But I think the imperfections are what make people realize, like, this is real. You're real. Yeah. That's what makes you attractive is that they can relate to imperfections.
Yeah. So you just mentioned you realized kind of who you were again. You thought about, or we realized again what it was when you were a kid, what you wanted to do, what that would look like. And that's the hindsight is 2020. Oh yeah, this is it. Now I'm there. I can actually own this and I'm my authentic self. What other advice could you give people about people that are kind of lost? They know that they're into something, whatever that topic is or whatever that field is. They're into it, but they're not sure how to pursue it, or they're not sure what it will look like to be their side job or their job or whatever it is that they're interested in.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, we have so many resources at our fingertips right now with the internet, with Google.
Yeah.
You know, whatever you're interested in, whatever sets your heart on fire, first of all, figure that out, because that's hard enough within itself. But if you know what your passion is and you know what sets your heart on fire, go onto Facebook, go onto social media, find some groups. Facebook has groups, all sorts of groups. They have groups for everything.
Yeah.
Go in there and find some groups that are what you want to do or what you love, and start digging in there. I mean, there's going to be something, and keep your eyes open with the intent to find where you might be able to serve.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where a lot of passion, just human passion, comes from, and jobs. I mean, if you really think about it, all of our careers are in some sort of a service, right, to others. Any of it, banking,
even selling credit card processing.
Right. And if you don't look at it as you're in service to others, you're going to come across gross, and salesy and yuck, and nobody's going to want to work with you. So if you want to be successful, you should probably look at it as service.
And you can probably think of those instances where you've been somewhere where there's typically terrible service, or you've never had service there. And I'm thinking of some of the lowest places where people like to complain about fast food or whatever.
Right.
When you have that awesome experience where you can tell that the employee that's working there loves their job, even though everybody else sees it as a negative, that changes your perspective about that. Right.
And so I would say, like, if you know your passion, if you know what you're looking for, go find some groups on social media to join and get interested in that. Look for where you can serve, where you can add value to people's lives in that realm.
Yeah.
But also, I would say Google it. I mean, I know that sounds so cliche, but like, start looking around, see if there is, some sort of need for underwater BB stacking. I don't know. What do you want to do?
And I think about this sometimes when you're interested in a topic and you go to search and there is nothing.
Yeah.
There is no group. Why not start it?
Yeah. Well, yay. If you're interested in something and there's no group and there's nothing, holy cow, do a dance.
Because there's got to be somebody else saying,
innovator. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah. Where is this group on Old Norse mythology, whatever that is you're interested in?
I'm sure there's one of those. But yeah, if there's something you're interested in and you can't find a group about it, that's amazing. To me, that gets me excited, because that means you get to be the first dude. Like, that's
cool. And you get to be the welcomer to other people who are looking for that same thing too.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think that's good advice, especially with the internet. You can find people everywhere who are interested in doing what you're doing, and just observing what they're doing, making it your own. Or if you've had experience and you can say, here, I tried this, then all of a sudden you're a part of a group. You have value.
Well, and think about this too. What if there's something that you love, your passion, there's no group about it, and you start one? Like, maybe you're putting that out there for somebody who's lost and doesn't know what they love, and you put something out there and they go, oh,
there it is.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
You could be the match.
Yeah.
For somebody else's fire. That's awesome.
That is good. That is epic. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and talk about the thing that lights you up, the good that you are trying to provide to other people. And I hope that people listening will be able to take something from this, whether it is going to find a group that they can participate in and belong to, or possibly even starting something up that will attract people to you. Because if you are legitimately trying to put good out there, people will find it.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, how we can learn how to own our good.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me today on Own Your Good. I'd like to give a special thanks to Arches Audio. They are the ones that provided this awesome music. If you need anything for a project, I would go and check them out. They have a great selection of music and other services to help you with your creative projects. I hope that you found this valuable. If you enjoyed this episode and it did something for you, or you think somebody might benefit from it, please share this. It would mean a lot to me to help spread this positivity and this idea that people can change, improve, and ultimately own their good.